Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to the side event this afternoon entitled Disaster Resilience, Early Warnings for All in Asia and the Pacific, which was organized in a true spirit of cross-cutting cooperation between Fiji, a large ocean state, and Mongolia, a landlocked country, as well as ESCAP and multiple international organizations who are present here physically and online. At the COP27 Climate Change Conference on 8th of November 2022, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres unveiled the Executive Action Plan on Early Warnings for All, aimed at ensuring that everyone on the planet is protected by early warning systems within the next 5 years. Through our discussions today, we hope to highlight the diversity of challenges and capacities across Asia and the Pacific in achieving early warnings for all. Before we start the meeting, we'd like to remind everyone that this is a hybrid meeting. To facilitate our discussions fully and effectively today, if you're joining us virtually, please enter your name and member organization name for easy identification. Please mute your microphone unless you are speaking, and if possible, we would appreciate if you could turn on your camera when you speak. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand using the hand button or wave your hand in front of the camera. On that note, let me welcome about 100 people who are present online, who are participating online. You may not see their faces, but I've been told that there are 100 people that are participating online in addition to us here this afternoon. So, distinguished speakers, as a courtesy to other speakers, please keep your presentation within the time limit of 5 minutes. The secretary will be reminding speakers when you have 1 minute left. And I would like to point to Devin. Devin, you're there? Can you show your timeline? Thank you. That's a timekeeping instrument to make our meeting effective. And also, when you have 30 seconds remaining, and when the time is up, we would like you to note that to respect the timekeeper on my left there. And also, if you have any technical difficulties, Natabon is our IT person. Can you raise your hand, Natabon? Thank you. So those are the two people who will be helping the chair, the moderator, guiding this session going forward. Okay, I think we're ready to go, and our colleagues online, they're also ready to go. So I now would like to request the Secretariat to share with us the recorded opening remarks from Ms. Mami Mizutori, the Special Representative of the United Nations Secretary General for Disaster Risk Reduction and Head of the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction. Secretary, please.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, and colleagues, it is my great pleasure to join His Excellency Ambassador Yelvoli and UN Under-Secretary General Alisjan Bahana in welcoming you to this event on the margins of the 79th session of ESCAP. I would like to start by thanking the governments of Fiji and Mongolia for organizing this event and extend my thanks to our fellow co-organizers ESCAP, WMO, ITU, IFRC, and ADPC. While I wish I could be with you in person, I am currently in New York for the high-level meeting of the UN General Assembly on the midterm review of the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction. 8 years into the framework, we are proud of the progress that has been made, but recognize that our collective goal of reducing global disaster losses is still far from being achieved. One of the key impediments is the lack of early warning systems in many of the countries most prone to disasters. We now have a chance to remedy this critical gap through the Early Warnings for All initiative, which UNDRR is honored to co-lead with WMO and with the support of ITU and IFRC. Implementation is already starting in 30 select countries, 1/3 of which are in Asia Pacific. By the end of 2027, Our goal is to see all countries benefit from inclusive and multi-hazard early warning systems. Early warning systems stand as one of the best measures to save lives and reduce disaster losses, which is why implementing this initiative must be a global priority. But the four lead organizations cannot do this on their own. We need your support as well, especially around three key areas. First, we need strong commitment at the national and local levels. Second, we need partnerships with regional and intergovernmental organizations to build on the work that is already being done. And third, we need funding to scale up efforts and implement the initiative's $3.1 billion action plan. I hope you will join us in supporting our effort to ensure that every person on Earth is protected by early warning systems, so that when hazards do strike, no one is left behind. Thank you very much.
I thank Ms. Mami Mizutori for her valuable contributions in laying the scene for our side event this afternoon, and also to convey a sincere appreciation for being with us in view of her heavy work schedule but this afternoon. Now we will come to the panel discussions. We'll move straight to the panel discussions after hearing the scene setting by Ms. Mizutori. She emphasized three important issues. One, the need for strong commitment at national and regional levels. Two, the need for strong partnerships. And third, the need for funding to enable them to undertake this work. So to open the panel discussions, I would like to first invite His Excellency Sain Boyan Amar Sekhan. I hope I mentioned the name correct, Dodas. Did I say it right? Thank you. The Deputy Prime Minister of Mongolia, to provide his intervention highlighting the need for early warning systems from the perspective of a landlocked country facing high challenges, especially from slow onset climate hazards. I give you the floor, Excellency.
Excellency Ms. Armida Salsjabana, Under Secretary General of the United Nations and Executive Secretary of the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. Excellency Ms. Mami Mizutori, Special Representative of the Secretary General for Disaster Risk Reduction. Excellency Professor Secretary Talas, Secretary General of the World Meteorological Organization. Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, and delegation of the member states, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the government of Mongolia and in my own name, I congratulate the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific with the successful organization of the 79th session of the Commission. Today, 3 out of 4 natural disasters in the world are caused by hydrometeorological and climate hazards and are affecting all countries regardless of their development level. In Mongolia, climate change has long been a real threat, and frequencies of slow onset disasters such as drought, drought, desertification, forest and steppe fires have amplified, resulting in increased vulnerability of the population, especially in the agricultural sector. It urges us to build up resilience, including preemptive actions. Early warning systems are the key elements for climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction that allow to prepare and to act appropriately and in sufficient time to reduce the possibility of harm and loss. Unfortunately, many countries, mainly in least developed countries and small island developing countries, and states struggle to establish early warning system. On behalf of the government of Mongolia, allow me to share our standpoint on early warning systems priorities. First, the United Nations should be commended for bringing to the forefront of the regional agenda to the disaster risk reduction through the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction and now this global initiative to provide early warnings for all by 2027. Secondly, the midterm review of the Sendai framework made it clear that much more is needed to advance disaster risk reduction in Asia and the Pacific, the world's most populous and most impacted region. We are going to discuss about it in New York soon. Thirdly, as a landlocked developing country, Mongolia is acutely aware that landlocked developing countries, least developed countries, and small island developing states bear disproportionate burden of the disaster economic loss related to our national gross domestic products. According to the Sendai framework, reporting on Target G landlocked developing countries in Asia represent the countries with the most limited monitoring and forecasting systems and ability to act on early warnings. 4. The early warning for all initiatives is also of particular importance to Mongolia due to the high risks associated with slow onset climate hazards. Over two-thirds of the national population lives in areas that are at risk of drought. Increasing frequency in drought periods and desertification events are also changing the face of Mongolian agricultural and farming. 5. Hazards more often than not cross national boundaries, thus disaster risk must also be managed in a transboundary manner. 6. Regional cooperation will be an important tool for landlocked developing countries and the Northeast Asia sub-region to advance our early warning systems for shared slow onset disasters. Regional cooperation has the potential to provide economies of scale and ensure that no one is left behind. Finally, I want to stress out that cross-sectoral and multi-stakeholder cooperation, including with the public, ensures that early warnings not only reach all, but will be able to lead to risk-informed early actions that will ultimately save lives and livelihoods. Thank you.
Please allow me to thank His Excellency Mr. Sainbuan Amar Sekhan, Deputy Prime Minister of Mongolia, for sharing his insights on behalf of Mongolia and the LLDCs. Sorry. I would now like to invite Honorable Sekyusa Tumbuna, the Assistant Minister, Office of the Prime Minister of Fiji, for his statement. Establishing and maintaining comprehensive multi-hazard early warning systems in island countries is an incredibly complex endeavor. What are some of the main challenges you face in the Pacific? And you could share with us some stories of success, or also your work with the partners as you present your intervention this afternoon. So you have the floor.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is evident that undeniable that climate change exposes communities and people to multiple hazards. The Pacific region is one of the most disaster-prone regions in the world with recurring and severe natural hazards. Cyclones, earthquakes, tsunamis, floods, tidal surges, landslides, droughts, and volcanic eruptions are compounded by the impact of global warming on ocean health and biodiversity loss. Launching the Executive Action Plan on Early Warnings 2023 to 2027 at the COP27, the UN Secretary General recognized that 1/3 of the world's people, mainly in the least developed countries and small islands, developing states, are still not covered by early warning systems. The plan identifies key areas for advancing universal disaster risk and knowledge and outlines the priority actions required to achieve this, building on the Sendai Target G report and the different considerations in policies, capacities, infrastructure, finance, and collaboration to improve preparedness and response capabilities over the next 5 years. However, plans will remain plans without effective practical implementation. The findings and recommendations of the midterm review of the Sendai framework will inform support for global agreements and reviews, including those related to sustainable development, financing for development, climate, biodiversity, water, energy, and food. Risk management is critical in early warning systems. The risk produced by disasters is compounded by the vulnerabilities of the affected populations. Investment in disaster risk reduction measures enhances the resilience of communities. A multi-hazard warning system for countries in the Pacific need to navigate the contextual challenges of our geographical location, including island network and natural environment, infrastructure, and availability of relevant data. Around 75% of the Fijian population lives on the coast. They are highly susceptible to coastal inundation. They have limited in situ adaptation options. The coastal inundation forecasting demonstration project in Fiji, jointly coordinated by the World Meteorological Organization and the WMO's Commission on Hydrology, developed and implemented a multi-hazard early warning system that delivers an integrated approach to forecasting, monitoring, and warning for coastal flooding. The project was piloted in Bangladesh, Fiji, Indonesia, and the Dominican Republic. The project offers many lessons for us, such as multidisciplinary, collaborative approach amongst different areas of expertise being brought together to deliver accessible, understandable, and actionable warnings. The integration of expertise, data, and models into one single platform enable a timely delivery of results, allowing forecasters and the disaster management authorities to make reliable decisions and response plans to share publicly. Sustainability and cost management is very important. Utilization of existing resources, including tools and technology, without the need for additional resources and ongoing cost. A holistic and inclusive approach is important, in which the input of communities most at risk from coastal inundation are considered, as the case in Fiji. A thorough understanding the weakness and strengths of our communities is key in ensuring that no one is left behind. Improving community awareness and understanding of climate change and disaster risk using both traditional and modern scientific knowledge helps to inform community-level disaster risk management. The global plan is to reduce disaster losses by 2030. Will be won or lost in the Pacific and Asia, according to the UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction. As the world grapples with the socio-economic and development impacts of COVID-19 pandemic and the ongoing climate crisis and frequency and intensity of natural disasters and catastrophes continue, our enhanced long-term cooperation with all partners at all levels is very important. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank Honorable Tumbuna for sharing his insights on behalf of the Pacific Small Island Developing States. I would now like to invite Mr. David Cobbelli, Regional Manager in Asia and the Pacific, United Kingdom Meteorological Office, to share what the UK is currently doing to strengthen EW for early warnings in the region, and how would you say can countries better support early warnings for shared transboundary hazards? You have 5 minutes, Mr. Cobbelli. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Distinguished panel members, guests and colleagues, it's a real pleasure and honour to be here, and many thanks to ESCAP for inviting the Met Office to participate in this panel session on early warnings for all in Asia and the Pacific. The Met Office has a strong history of working in partnership across Asia and the Pacific and in supporting UK government climate resilience priorities for the region, or should I say regions. And here I stress the words partnerships and collaboration to support science and research, service development and sustainability of weather and climate information services to support early warning and climate resilience. Allow me to point out some key UK government initiatives set to continue, extend or expand over the coming years. From a science and research partnerships perspective, under the UK government-funded Weather and Climate Science for Services Partnership, WCSSP, launched in 2014, Met Office and UK partner organisations are supporting a number of collaborative projects that aim to develop and improve global and regional forecasting systems. These include a regional project in South Asia with Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia and Vietnam, a partnership project in India with the Ministry of Earth Sciences and its associated agencies, and a project in China with the Chinese Meteorological Association and Academy of Sciences. Such initiatives have made significant scientific advances in understanding the meteorology of the regions, improved forecasting of extreme weather events, and these initiatives also have a strong focus on impact-based forecasting to translate science into forecasts, warnings and advice. From a service development and delivery perspective, initiatives such as the recent UK government-funded Asia Regional Resilience to a Changing Climate, or ARC programme, Met Office in partnership with the World Bank have supported a number of developments in South Asia, including but not limited to creation of the South Asia Hydromet Forum in partnership with WMO, regional organisations such as RIMES and National Met Services to promote collaboration, capacity building and regional and sub-regional levels to improve hydromet, early warning and climate services in South Asia. The ARC programme is also supported through funding and technical enhancements, WMO regional platforms such as the Severe Weather Forecasting Programme and South Asia Seasonal Climate Outlook Forum. Going forwards, I'm pleased to mention that the recently announced UK Government Climate Action for a Resilient Asia, or CARA initiative, has pledged 274 million to support climate resilience across Asia and the Pacific over the coming years. CARA will support, amongst other programmes, the Met Office Weather and Climate Information Services, WISER, Asia Pacific programme. This is a 6-year regional programme across South Asia, Southeast Asia and the Pacific Islands region, aiming to help improve understanding, capacity and access to weather and climate information services to support development of more reliable, tailored and accessible services. In doing so, supporting in part realisation of the objectives of initiatives such as early warning for all. On to the second part of the question. How would you say countries can better support early warning? Well, over recent years, Met Office and partners have been collaborating with ESCAP and RIMES to develop a regional learning platform for multi-hazard early warning. We have held a number of annual workshops to review capacities, needs, opportunities to support early warning for transboundary hazards. I'm going to summarise 4 from several recommendations from these workshops. Number 1, the need to further support development of data, information and monitoring networks and tools to support transboundary early warning. The need to enhance hydrometeorological data and monitoring networks and raise the profile of the benefits of these so national governments can invest in such networks. The recently announced WMO Systematic Observations Financing Facility provides an opportunity to support this, and I'm pleased to announce that the Met Office has been selected as a peer advisor for several countries in the region. Recommendation 2, need to support development and enhancement of regional fora, utilising existing cooperation mechanisms such as the ESCAP Regional Dialogue Mechanism, and leveraging and enhancing the role of WMO platforms such as SWFP and Climate Outlook Forums. Number 3, there's a requirement to support further capacity building across providers and users of forecasting and disaster risk management information to ensure operationalisation of forecasting and early warning systems. Building on existing efforts and guidance, developing pilots and case studies to demonstrate what works, what doesn't, and to scale up in different contexts. And finally, a need to increase efforts to ensure early warnings are reach and are actionable by end users, particularly in vulnerable communities and hotspots in the Asia Pacific region, as per the ESCAP riskscapes for the region. This will require innovative approaches to ensure early warning are deployed and take account of local contexts and end users who are involved in developing and testing of such systems. Hopefully, initiatives such as CARA, WISER, WCSSP can support such areas as multi-year initiatives. However, regional and in particular national government buy-in, ownership and long-term resourcing, including improved donor coordination, is essential to ensure long-term sustainability. Thank you for your time and of course welcome any questions or clarifications. Thank you, Chair.
Let me thank you, Mr. Kobeli, for your intervention as well as for the 4 recommendations and the financial support of 270 million to the Asia Pacific region. Let me now invite Ms. Catherine Clarkson, the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, IFRC, Head Office and Permanent Observer to ESCAP, who is with us in person, and Ms. Fatima Himia, Secretary General of the Maldives Red Crescent Society for IFRC, who is joining us online. Pillar 4 on preparedness and response is crucial for an early warning system to work. It is often referred to as reaching the last mile. Can you explain a little about this concept and how the Maldives Red Crescent Society has been working on this, particularly as the 20th anniversary of the Indian Ocean tsunami nears? Ms. Catherine, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just to reconfirm that IFRC, as the Chair mentioned, is a pillar lead for Pillar 4, very committed to working with all partners in this and on preparedness and response. And I think, Chair, you said reaching the last mile. We also like to say reaching the first mile when it comes to local responders who are always within their communities. And who better to talk about this than a national, one of our members, local Red Cross and Red Crescent Society from Maldives, Fatima Himia, I think is joining us online. Himia.
Thank you, Clarkson, and thank you for this opportunity. Just to highlight on the preparedness and response efforts of Maldivian Red Crescent, the Maldivian Red Crescent was formed following the aftermath of the 2004 tsunami. And prior to this, the concept of preparedness and response did not exist in our communities, as we are not a very disaster-prone country. And following the MRC's formation, we have worked in training and building capacity in the island communities to respond to emergencies at a local level. And with the support of the IFRC, we have trained over 400 responders across the country. And we are among the very first primary responders supporting emergencies and disaster situations in the country. We have about 190 inhabited islands in the country, and it is crucial that we have these response teams in the islands at the ground level so that our teams could respond to these situations. Our response teams are trained in evacuation, providing first aid and psychosocial support, and also providing immediate relief items for those affected in our communities. And when it comes to talking about the reaching the last mile, like what Catherine said, reaching the first mile. That's what we are, and that's what we do as one of the largest voluntary humanitarian organizations. We are present in the communities at the ground level, especially small island developing countries like the Maldives and those in the Pacific. We cannot respond in a timely manner unless we have the resources and the capacities at the ground level. We currently work very closely with the National Disaster Management Authority and also the Maldives Meteorological Services to ensure that the communities receive early warning messages related to bad weather and possible flooding in these islands. So we create awareness on what these alert level messages means and also what preparedness measures could be taken by the communities to reduce the impact of such flooding situations. And of course, due to the impacts of the climate change, we are facing varied rainfall patterns throughout the year. And these early warning systems plays a very crucial part in providing these messages for preparedness in communities where they could mitigate the damages and loss caused to the people in these islands. And preparedness and response has always been a top priority of the IFRC. And we have been immensely supported during emergency situations through various emergency funding mechanisms in the movement. And I strongly believe what we need now is more resources, both financial and technical, and joint efforts by all parties, both the government and international organizations, to join with us to further strengthen our capacities in this area of preparedness and strengthening the already existing early warning systems in the country rather than creating something new. And we hope with the early warning for all initiative, we will all have that opportunity to further strengthen our efforts in the community and reach the last mile through our service. Thank you, Excellency.
Let me thank Ms. Himia and Ms. Clarkson for sharing IFRC's experience and role in reaching the first mile and towards the last mile of the early warnings. I would now like to invite Mr. Ben Churchill, Director of the WMO Regional Office for Asia and the Southwest Pacific, Asia Pacific. Asia Pacific is a very diverse region with over 60% of the world's population, including many of the most vulnerable communities, and is exposed to the highest number of natural hazards in the world. As the lead of Pillar 2 on the UN's Executive Action Plan on Early Warnings for All, detection, observations, monitoring, analysis, and forecasting of hazards, could you share some of the challenges and opportunities for disaster resilience for implementing early warnings for all in this region and outlines the plans of the WMO to ensure its success? Mr. Churchill, you have the floor, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Distinguished panelists, guests and colleagues, I'm honoured and very grateful to be here on behalf of Secretary General Professor Pateri Tallis, representing WMO, and thank you to our partner ESCAP for the opportunity. Allow me to start with a combined finding from ESCAP and WMO on the exposure and vulnerability of our region, which is that a person living in Asia and the Pacific is 6 times more likely to be affected by disaster events than someone living outside the region. Now, that says a lot about the importance of early warnings for all in our region. However, despite the many benefits of early warning systems, there are several key challenges that need to be addressed to improve their effectiveness. Allow me to walk you through some of the key points. First is limited data availability. Observation and monitoring of natural hazards relies on data from weather stations, which can be limited in certain areas, but also on remote sensing, including Earth observations from space. Improving data collection and analysis is critical to improving the accuracy of early warning systems. Further forecasting and warning capability also rely on data, primarily numerical prediction models of the atmosphere, sea surface, and ocean status, cryosphere, and so on. It should be noted here that accuracy of forecasts and relevance of warning information needs high enough model resolution, particularly in densely populated areas over coastal waters and in complex terrains. Second, various WMO regional centres, such as climate centres and specialised meteorological centres, exist in the region, whose products can be downscaled for better forecasting. They are centres of excellence that strengthen the capacity of WMO members and the communities in each region to deliver the best climate and weather services to national users. Yet national warning capabilities in supported countries around the world are not as high as we would all wish them to be. This Early Warnings for All initiative requires significant scale up and acceleration efforts. Third is insufficient infrastructure. Early warning systems require communication networks, meteorological and hydrological stations, and data centres. Ensuring this infrastructure is in place and functioning properly is crucial to the effectiveness of early warning systems. Data needs to be accessible at country level. Warning information needs to be shared across all communication channels to all people at risk so they can anticipate and act early enough to better protect themselves and their livelihoods. Beyond the warning agencies, relay of information through media, mobile phone networks, through cell broadcasting, local authorities, community leaders and so on will indeed play a crucial role. And it is worth noting here that implementing communication standards such as the Common Alerting Protocol, or CAP, will be instrumental in that regard. Fourth, as already mentioned, the Systematic Observations Financing Facility fills a gap to support the most vulnerable countries, particularly LDCs and SIDS. And fifth, human factors and sustained competency management. We can have best satellite programs, research and modelling centres making tremendous amounts of data already accessible. But if countries do not have the resources to develop and maintain adequate competencies to analyse data and make the right decisions in terms of warning issuance, progress is at serious risk. And in this context, continued and strengthened stakeholder and community engagement is essential to the success of early warnings for all. Ensuring that communities and various stakeholders understand the risks they face and know how to respond to warnings is critical to saving lives and reducing the impact of natural hazards. Six, and my second last point, is funding, which has been mentioned a number of times. Early warning systems require significant funding to establish and maintain, and ensuring adequate funding for these systems is crucial to their long-term success. And finally, multi-stakeholder, multinational, multi-level coordination to ensure that everyone is having the same, has the same voice, guidance, and uniformity on access to early warning systems. So the second part of the question was the plans or the next steps. And I'll just walk through a few of those. The Executive Action Plan, as we have heard, for Early Warnings for All was launched at COP27. Focusing on the first 2 years, we are building on the Global Status Report of Multi-Hazard Early Warning Systems, or Target G, and the focus will be on establishing the state of risk knowledge through the identification of gaps and agreeing on global and subnational application of knowledge and policies. And in the second year, the foundations required for implementing the plan will be laid, including commitments and allocations of funding, and implementation will be initiated and has been initiated in the first tranche of 30 countries with specific focus, but notwithstanding that work will continue in other countries that are falling short on early warning systems. And years 3 to 5 will be about further implementing the plan and accelerating implementation. And just finally, I wanted to mention the work that we're undertaking on developing an inter-pillar toolkit, working across all of our 4-pillar partners. It's a collective piece of work to develop terms of reference for national stakeholder coordination workshops, concept notes and agendas for the workshops, mapping stakeholders, and looking at minimum capabilities. And just as I'm running short of time, what is needed in terms of our ambitions are more regular global and regional consultation. And I'm pleased to say that in this region, we have at least met, the pillars have met at least 4 times, and we continue to collaborate and cooperate and connect with countries through the UN resident coordinators and country teams. And embedding early warnings for all into the UN country team agenda meeting is critical. And we've already, as I said, started these negotiations and discussions. National consultation at the country level is critical as well, which is key to engaging all stakeholders that have an interest in early warnings for all. And this is a momentum for gathering a collective understanding of what early warnings for all means in the country, what baseline information exists at the country level, and how we all could achieve this by working together. Let me conclude that implementation of early warnings for all needs to be related to context, as different regions and countries may face different types of hazards, resulting in specific requirements, priorities, and challenges. Customising the steps to suit this local context is essential for an effective early warning system. Thank you all for your attention, and I look forward to working with all of you on the Early Warnings for All initiative. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Churchill, for your insights on the challenges and opportunities and plans to ensure the success of early warning systems for all in the region. May I now invite Ms. Atsuko Okuda, Regional Director, International Telecommunications Union, Regional for Asia and the Pacific, to highlight ITU's role as Pillar 3, leading on warning, dissemination, and communication, and what further actions are needed to tackle the current connectivity gaps across the region. Ms. Okuda, you have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to share ITU's initiatives in Asia and the Pacific and towards early warning for all, and our efforts as the lead of Pillar 3 on warning dissemination and communication. Studies have shown that most of the countries in the world still lack an effective multi-hazard early warning system, while even fewer countries have linked early warning systems to emergency telecommunication, which is the basis for disseminating alerts and communication. This impacts the developing economies more, and in particular, our region, one of the most disaster-prone regions in the world. ITU's strategic plan, which was agreed upon by 193 ITU member countries in October last year, envisions that countries should have a national emergency telecommunication plan as part of their national and local disaster risk reduction strategies and national efforts to connect the unconnected and accelerate digital transformation. Against this background, ITU Asia and the Pacific has been collaborating with member states, UN agencies, academia, and industry members to assist countries to build resilient ICT infrastructure, develop human and institutional capacity, and provide guidelines on national policies, plans, and regulations so as to create an enabling environment to deliver vital information and disaster alerts to all, including the most vulnerable in society. The national emergency telecommunication plans enable countries identify all stakeholders, assess the level of preparedness, and set out the strategic alignment and develop standard operating procedures to better coordinate and manage their responses to natural disasters. ITU has been ITU has supported 9 Pacific Island countries in improving emergency telecommunication capabilities through a satellite connectivity project in partnering with the International Telecommunication Satellite Organization, Pacific, Intelsat, and Inmarsat, and provided over 90 satellite terminals. In the aftermath of the undersea cable disruptions due to volcanic eruptions in January 2022, ITU assisted the government of Tonga with the disaster connectivity maps, bandwidth, and telecommunication equipment support from partners including Intelsat, Spark New Zealand, Elysium, and DFAT of Australia to regain international connectivity through satellite terminals installed in our project. Currently, we are conducting a detailed study to assess resilience in ICT infrastructure in Tonga and other countries, and what we can do more to enable critical warning dissemination and communication at the time of disaster. In Vanuatu, ITU coordinated with partners including Starlink to provide much needed connectivity in the areas affected by the magnitude 6.5 earthquake and the intense tropical cyclones in March 2023. ITU has been implementing a smart island initiatives in South Molecular and had connected remote communities with the internet, which survived the natural disasters and have demonstrated how important the connectivity is. It is worthwhile mentioning that during the Category 5 Cyclone Harold, which traversed through the northern part of the country in early April 2020, the satellite terminal ITU had installed in school in South Molecular with Pacific was one of the few resilient enough to continue providing the international connectivity. During the disaster and under the COVID lockdowns. And the same terminal again remained active during the cyclone in 2023. These examples have laid the foundation for the Smart Islands and Smart Villages initiative, which is now being scaled up in 15 countries in Asia and the Pacific. I have cited a few examples of how important it is to establish resilient ICT infrastructure for timely dissemination of warning alerts and disaster communication. Thanks to the support from the Government of Australia and the Government of Japan, ITU and our partners have been making progress towards the establishment of more resilient ICT infrastructure with the focus on the least developed countries, small island developing states, and landlocked developing countries. The current focus of our work includes the promotion and adoption of CAP, Common Alerting Protocol, which has been adopted by ITU-T recommendation X1303, and together with WMO, IFRC, and UNDRR, ITU also supports the UN Global Early Warning Initiative for the implementation of climate adaptation, which covers all four components of early warning, and promotes the adoption of technologies such as cell broadcasting at national and regional levels. Ladies and gentlemen, ITU looks forward to collaborating with all of you to accelerate our collective efforts to ensure that early warning messages reach everyone in time of a disaster with resilient ICT infrastructure and digital technology. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Okuda, for sharing your insights on the importance of leveraging digital connectivity to ensure that early warnings do contribute to those who need it in a very timely manner to save lives and livelihoods. May I now invite Mr. Aslam Perwais, the Deputy Executive Director of Asian Disaster Preparedness Center, ADPC, and to share their ongoing work in supporting the operationalization of early warnings. You have the floor, sir.
Honorable Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, and all participants. Since its inception 37 years ago, ADPC continued to contribute uniquely to the benefits of multi-hazard early warning system in saving lives and livelihoods, mainly in Asia and the Pacific. Today, I'm very happy to say with confidence that ADPC has significantly influenced the paradigm shift in the way risk information is developed, assessed, and used within multi-hazard early warning system, disaster risk reduction strategies, and government policy. For us at the center and our members of the Regional Consultative Committee, RCC, the evolution from what the weather will be to what the weather will do is a major building block for the development of impact-based warning transitions from focusing not only on the accuracy of hazard-based forecasting to also outlining the potential impact of that particular forecast. ADPC takes advantage of all hazard multi-risk analysis, which is then translated into hazard warning that detail possible impact on specific at-risk people, communities, and economic sectors. We are using the latest available satellite data and geospatial information to strengthen early warning for across Asia and the Pacific. At this very moment, we are providing new generation satellite-based rainfall data and products to the Mekong River Commission to increase the effectiveness of flood forecast. It helps the Mekong River Commission's drought management strategy, which intends to help farmers prepare and respond to droughts. We are supporting the government of Bangladesh to enhance its meteorological system integrator to strengthen its capacity of monitoring, forecasting, delivering meteorological, hydrological, agrometeorological services for all users, including communities. Integrating human rights, gender, and gender equality in early warning, evacuation, and camp management is the key initiative that ADPC facilitates by enhancing local level capacities for an inclusive early warning system. For example, in Philippines, ADPC work with people with disability and provide them better access to early warning information. In Sri Lanka, we empower marginalized groups through data sharing with the development of disaster information management system for data information collection, analysis, and dissemination. Learning from the COVID-19 pandemic on the importance of addressing biological hazards and the increasing complexity of the global risk landscape, ADPC brings into sharp focus on the need for implementation of the Sendai framework by building nexus between risk analytics, early warning system, and emergency operations centers. ADPC facilitates a truly locally working group of government, private sector, and civil society organizations in Cambodia, Myanmar, Nepal, Pakistan, Philippines, and Sri Lanka, with a common understanding for sharing the different aspects of risk information, translating early warning message for locally led actions, and operationalizing the Emergency Operations Center for effective response and recovery. The Office of the Civil Defense for the Government, Center for Disaster Preparedness for the Civil Society Organization, and the Philippine Disaster Resilience Foundation for the private sector forms this very unique Philippines disaster preparedness partnership. Almost 15 years ago, ADPC supported Mongolia to develop specific sectoral climate change adaptation targets in collaboration with the National Emergency Management Authority and key ministries. It continues today to strengthen the early warning system for ZUD and support the livelihood sector in Mongolia. In the Pacific countries, namely Cook Island, Fiji, Kiribati, Nauru, New Tokelau, and Tuvalu, ADPC helped to assess the multi-hazard early warning capacities, gaps, and needs at the regional, national, and subnational level under the cruise program. This paved ways for several development partners to engage with the countries to improve early warning system and capacity of these specific countries. ADPC is currently supporting Cambodia and Lao PDR to improve weather, water, and climate service provisions and disaster response under the framework of cruise with WMO. We continue our engagement with ESCAP since 2006 to improve end-to-end early warning for tsunami and other natural hazards for disaster preparedness and mitigation in the Indian Ocean and South Asia. While the cruise implementing partners are developing custom indicators to support countries to measure the effectiveness of their multi-hazard system, ADPC in partnership with UNDRR will further update the e-learning course on the Sendai Framework Monitor system, which has already been developed jointly with UNDRR and available for all online. The last ADPC continues to build its experience working with the country as it pivots from early warning for all to anticipatory actions. Going forward, ADPC will continue early warning information with exposure and vulnerability data to support the government and development partners to implement pre-agreed relief and response plan in anticipation of impending disaster. Thank you very much, Excellency.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pewais, for sharing the good work that you're doing for the region, as well as demonstrating some very practical examples, like in the Philippines, and empowerment of gender and women on early warning systems. This is very good testament of the good work that you're doing. Excellencies and colleagues, we are waiting for the executive secretary to also deliver her remarks, but I'm told that she's being a little bit behind in the other side event. But we shouldn't waste this time, and I guess that we can open the floor for discussions, and when she comes in, she can deliver her statement. So let me now open the floor for discussions, for questions, clarifications. We've heard some very excellent presentations today, and we wouldn't lose this beautiful opportunity to dig further into some of the issues that have been raised today. So the floor is open for questions and answers. Oh, I can see the executive secretary walking. Okay, let's just hold one more minute, please. Bear with me, Excellencies. Um, then we can go back to the question and answers as soon as the executive secretary has delivered her remarks. Excellencies and colleagues, it's my honor, duty honor to inform you that you have just been joined by Ms. Amida Salcia Aziabana, the Under-Secretary General of the United Nations and Executive Secretary of ESCAP, who will provide special remarks at this event. Thank you very much for making the time to join us, Ibu, on such a busy day. We appreciate your commitment to bring early warnings to all. It is indeed the single most effective climate adaptation measure. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Yapoli, and a very good afternoon to all colleagues, excellencies, as well as eminent speakers, distinguished participants. It is indeed my pleasure to join you at this very important side event on a very timely topic, disaster resilience, early warnings for all in Asia and Pacific. As you know that this initiative is Secretariat Initiative, global initiative, but of course, there is this regional elements that we need also take into account. My sincerest appreciation and thanks to the government of Fiji and Mongolia for convening us here today and again on this very important topic. Given the increasing number of disaster, especially our region, countries in our region very prone, very vulnerable to disaster. Not to mention the high number of fatalities, economic damages as a result of this disaster. The UN Early Warning for All initiative offers hope as a proven adaptation measure to save lives and livelihoods, to further better prepared, all of us, not only countries, but all of us. I would therefore like to take this opportunity to extend our full regional support to WMO, our colleagues, our sister and brother at WMO and UNDRR as co-leads in the implementation of the Secretary General's Early Warning Initiative. Regional and sub-regional components of global to local early warning information are very critical to ensure a seamless meteorological information value chain, linking global observational data and models to national warning dissemination and preparedness. And we've been working in tandem with all partners to leverage regional and sub-regional cooperation under each of the pillars of the Global Early Warning Plan. So as you understand, there are the 4 pillars of this initiative. Again, if I'm just quickly, just sort of also reintroducing, maybe some of you are quite already familiar with, again, our engagement or support within the context of these pillars, the 4 pillars. So within pillar 1, we've been supporting through our risk and resilience portal, demonstrating a fit for purpose data ecosystem, ecosystem housing, accessible and actionable risk information. And within pillar 2, and strengthening pillar 2 is again our contribution on this impact-based forecasting, which shows not just what the weather will be, but what it will do by providing impact and hotspot analysis. And then for pillar 3, we've been supporting, or not quite there yet, but we would be pleased to support the collective and mindful application of AI technologies for alert services based on authoritative warnings released by National Hydromet Services. And last but not least, the pillar 4, as of course we would be very pleased, or we've been supporting through its trust fund for tsunami, disaster and climate preparedness, as you are already aware. This tsunami trust fund was established not long after the devastating 2004, December 2004 tsunami in Indonesia. The member state at that time had this initiative to establish the trust fund for tsunami. Earlier, initially it was only for tsunami, but then we broadened the scope also to include the wider scope of tsunami disaster and climate preparedness. To help countries make the shift, countries in our region, to help countries in our region make the shift from single, which was initially again only tsunami, right? From single to multi-hazard early warning in what we call synergizing standard operating procedures. Again, this is getting technical, yeah, SSOP. So I hope you will join us at the upcoming, this is sort of announcement, upcoming committee for DRR and ESCAP Disaster Resilience Week, which we convene every other year, so every 2 years. And the next one is upcoming from 24th to 27 July in Bangkok. Yeah. Again, to further deepen our collaboration on this very critical, very important topic on issues. Again, thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ibu Alisabana, for your insightful remarks and also emphasizing the importance of our partnerships and collaborations moving forward to improve early warning systems. Excellencies and colleagues, I noted that we are right on time, and I'm sort of tempted just to give one question, just to allow one question before we ask our closing remarks. There's a question that comes online. If I can just read it to you. Thank you for the presentations. We heard that for risk reduction across borders, transboundary collaborations and regional cooperation is required. Apart from the need for sharing data and information, timely forecast, capacity building, what are some other recommendations for access to early warning for risk reduction for all across national boundaries? Uh, can one just give us a 1 minute response to that question? Colleagues from WMO or who?
I think that's an excellent question, and transboundary hazards and warnings, as we know, climate and water do not respect boundaries. And it's very important to cooperate in a regional context through our regional association structures. As I mentioned earlier, the regional climate centres and regional specialised meteorological centres issue products and services to support members. But at a regional level, there is further scope for as you say, data sharing, but also collaborating on issuing of forecasts and warnings that impact multiple members at the same time. So WMO continues to work in this area to enhance that capability. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Churchill, for that useful response. Excellencies and colleagues, I know there are very, very useful discussions and deliberations and issues that our delegations would like to take across, but unfortunately, time is on us, and I would like to close this session. And may I invite His Excellency Mr. Anka Bayar, the State Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Mongolia, to deliver the closing remarks. So you have the floor.
Thank you, Ambassador Amana, for your excellent moderation during this session. I also would like to thank Ms. Armida, Under Secretary General of the United Nations and Executive Secretary of the ESCAP, as well as Ms. Mami Mitsuri, Special Representative of the Secretary General, United Nations Secretary General for Disaster Risk Reduction, as well as the head of this UN Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, for the opening and the special remarks, which set the stage for the important discussions that have followed. My thanks also go to all the panelists for sharing their perspectives and ideas, how we can all work together to achieve early warnings in Asia and Pacifics. Ladies and gentlemen, today's session brought together a diverse group of voices to discuss the challenges and the opportunities of developing early warning systems in the face of changing climate. The perspectives shared by the four pillar leads of the Early Warning for All initiative, as well as LDCs, LLDCs, and CIDS, were truly enlightening. As we all during last year's 77th United Nations General Assembly, the UN-wide Early Warnings for All initiative was proposed with the goal of assisting vulnerable countries and communities that require additional resources to become more resilient to the effects of extreme weather and climate change. To quote Mr. Antonio Guterres, we must make sure that every person, community, and nation has access to effective early warning systems within the next 5 years. It is high time to move beyond endless discussions, and vulnerable countries need meaningful action. Our discussion today was crucial in highlighting the importance of the early warning system that can reach everyone, especially in countries with limited coverage, such as LDCs, LLDCs, and CIDS. It is clear that such systems can serve as a crucial adaptation measure that saves lives and livelihoods and minimize the loss and damages from extreme weather and climate change. Our discussions have underscored the need to prioritize and scale up our efforts to provide effective early warning systems to all, as this can help build resilience and ensure sustainable development. Based on today's discussions, let me share some of my thoughts on the next steps that will take place concurrently at the country and regional level. Under the Early Warnings for All initiative, 11 pilot countries in Asia and the Pacific have been identified as the first to receive coordinated and targeted support. These countries will take stock of their current early warning systems with pillar leads guided by the respective resident coordinators and UN country teams. This will be a crucial step in improving early warning coverage and effectiveness in these countries, and ultimately in building resilience and reducing the impacts of extreme weather and climate change. As a country committed to the initiative, Mongolia will prioritize collaboration with ATPC and other technical partners regionally and globally. By doing so, Mongolia aims to strengthen its capacity and capability in early warning systems and improve the resilience of vulnerable communities on the ground. This will require a sustained effort to enhance data collection, analysis, and dissemination capabilities, as well as to promote effective communication and community engagement strategies. Ultimately, this will contribute to reducing the impacts of the extreme weather and climate change and build more resilient future for Mongolia and our people. The UNISCAP Disaster Resilience Week has been scheduled for July 24th to 27th of this year. All participants are strongly encouraged to build on the outcomes of this meeting and apply them to the next steps for operationalizing the implementation of early warning systems at regional level. In addition, it is important to work together to address transboundary hazards and foster greater collaboration and partnerships across countries and sectors. Excellencies and distinguished delegates, I would like to thank you all for your active participation for today's event and wish you a very pleasant day in Romania.
Excellencies and colleagues, without any further ado, I know we're really running against time. Let me thank you sincerely for your participation, for your presence. And let's give one more hand to our excellent presenters today, for those who are online and offline. Uh, thank you very much. Our meeting is closed.